Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today in the latest Boutique Hotel News webinar. Today, we are talking about a very important and rather contested topic, reclaiming the guest journey from the OTAs. My name's Eloise Hanson. I'm the editor of Boutique Hotel News, and I'm going to be your host today. If you're not familiar with Boutique Hotel News, we are an online trade publication and we cover the global boutique, lifestyle, luxury hotel sector and branded residences. So today's webinar is in partnership with cloud-based property management system ResNexus, and we have a very short video to play for you.
Hospitality means comfort, reliability, fond memories. It means providing your guests with the best experience. Hospitality will always mean these things, but it's also evolving. Guest expectations are changing, technology is changing, and even the market is changing. You need a software solution that's up to the task, that can keep up with your evolving needs and the needs of your guests without juggling multiple accounts and logins. Introducing ResNexus, your all-in-one, easy-to-use hospitality solution, giving you the tools you need to manage your business's reservations, marketing, OTA integrations, payments, and more. Our innovative technology and industry-leading customer service are equipped to help you grow your business by saving time and money. From the online travel agency, to your website, to the booking engine, expand your reach with more marketing channels and increase your direct bookings. Automate time-consuming tasks to give your guests that memorable experience. Increase your revenue and streamline your day-to-day all in one place. Regardless of the hospitality experience you provide, ResNexus is here to help your business grow. ResNexus, more reservations.
And further details about ResNexus have been popped into the chat if you would like to learn more. And we'll be shortly hearing from a core team member, but more on that to come. So a brief overview of some guidelines today. We are going to spend around 45 minutes in conversation today with our speakers, followed by some time at the end to take any questions from our audience members. So please, if you do have any pressing questions, I suggest you get round to those quickly. You can submit your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and I will get round to asking those questions when relevant. Today's webinar is also being recorded. Every registrant will receive a copy of that recording along with a summary of the key insights. And when the webinar closes, we have a very short survey. If you do have the time to fill out that survey, we'd really value your feedback. We're always looking to improve these webinars and make them as interactive as possible. Now, usually before we get stuck into the main conversation, I like to share some context slides. And whilst we pull up the slides here, I'm going to briefly talk you through some of these key headlines. And here are some screenshots which provide some background information as to why we're here. This is all to frame our conversation today. And a recent report from SiteMinder, which surveyed around 12,000 travellers worldwide, reveals that online travel agencies have overtaken search engines as the primary starting point for hotel discovery. So up from about 18%, 26% of travellers will now begin exploring accommodation options using an OTA. This compares to about 21% of travellers who said that they will start with a search engine. That has dropped quite drastically. That's down from about 36%. Good news is that 18% of travelers who begin their search on an OTA opt to book directly. So that represents a 3.3 percentage point increase year on year. Now, on the bottom left-hand headline, research from Expedia Group, which surveyed around 11,000 consumers worldwide, so pretty similar in terms of size and volume here, found that 61% of that research cohort now find trip ideas on social media platforms, and that's up from about 35% in 2022. So 73% of travelers say that influencer recommendations have directly influenced and led to booking decisions. And hotels are the number one travel type or like product based on an influencer's recommendation. And that's followed by a domestic trip and then a tour slash activity. So on one hand, we have a travel manager saying that OTAs are top of the funnel. We then have an OTA saying that social media sits at the top of the funnel. And I think this illustrates how fragmented the distribution landscape is and why it's so difficult for hotels to own and control the guest journey. And just staying on this slide just for a moment here, a story that cropped up over the weekend. And adding another layer of complexity to this landscape, Google users are now seeing search and shopping ads placed directly into the Google AI mode results. So this once again shifts how hotels are being discovered because visibility is effectively belonging to the highest bidder. It tilts towards the big ad buyers. So currently Google is running out some tests, and I have to admit, tests are being currently run on HVAC systems. So if you're searching anything about HVAC systems, you might see an ad at the bottom of your AI generated results that might prompt you for like a repair service, for instance. But the way in which these ads are now being surfaced may eventually trickle down into hospitality and eventually into hotels. So if a paid ad could be from an OTA, if a paid ad takes that spot, your hotel may no longer be visible, and that may impact direct bookings. Just something I wanted to flag. On the next slide, here are some headlines that we've published on Boutique Hotel News. And here in the UK, the Advertising Standards Authority has called for the removal of several adverts from 4 hotel and travel companies, including Booking.com, over the use of misleading minimum prices. So the watchdog said that because only a small number of rooms were available to book at the promoted price, the adverts overstated deals and were unfair to customers. And I think this touches on the value of transparency in building trust with future guests. And this is a big topic that's fed into other conversations that BHN has hosted. We held an in-person hotelier event exploring what loyalty looks like in the digital age. And we've also published features from industry leaders about how independent hotels can remain competitive and visible in an AI era. So all of which you can read more about in the chat. There's lots of activity already happening in the chat, so please resort to the chat if you want to find any further resources. So let's meet our speakers today. We've got lots to get stuck into. For ease, I'm going to move from left to right as per the PowerPoint slides, and I'll ask each to introduce themselves individually. So Nathan, let's kick off with you and welcome.
Thanks, Eloise. Pleasure to be here. My name is Nathan Mayfield. I'm Vice President of ResNexus. A little bit about myself. I have over 25 years of marketing experience, 15 years of operational experience, and I've worked for companies large and small, from mom and pop design companies all the way to a large billion-dollar company where I worked closely with the president. I've worked at ResNexus for over 11 years, and I love learning, serving, and helping each of our clients grow. In addition, I'm a member of Forbes Business Council, and I regularly write articles for them in regards to topics that impact the hospitality industry.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nathan. And Derry, over to you. Welcome.
Hi there, yeah, my name's Derry Green. I own the Secret Garden Glamping. What started as a project in my garden in 2020 in lockdown has now grown into the UK's most viewed, most followed, most booked glamping site. We started with one location, but after appearing on Dragon's Den last year, we've now taken on investment. We have 5 locations. Our newest one in Southern Ireland has just gone online this weekend, and we're expanding to 15 locations by the end of next year. We currently have a little over 1.2 million followers across our social media platform and over 5 billion views to date across all our social media channels.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Thanks, Derry. Gary, over to you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gary Lubert. Yes, I'm the chair of Keswick Tourism Association. So Keswick, for those of you who don't know, is a town in the middle of the Lake District here in the National Park. I currently own also a guest house. Previously, I've been on the main board of the Federation of Small Businesses. So my expertise is tourism in the small business context. And I also sit on a couple of boards for a university as well. Looking forward to today, looking forward to hearing everything from everybody. I'm really sort of excited about the changes that are happening in the tourism industry at this moment in time.
Certainly challenges ahead, but with a challenge always comes an opportunity. So I'm glad to hear that you're excited, Gary. And Shani, over to you. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Shani. I'm head of revenue for True Hospitality. So I've been in the industry around 15 years. Prior to that, I worked for a DMC in Lake Como. But I joined True Hospitality in 2022, which is when the company started. We started with 2 properties in Manchester, and I've expanded and now have 11 properties under management. Our most recent opening was the Reserve at Chester Zoo, which opened in August this year, with 2 refurbs planned for 2026, as well as more openings in the pipeline. So, yeah, exciting time.
Thank you, Shani. And I'm going to flag here that all the LinkedIn profiles of our speakers are in the chat. I mentioned the chat is a valuable resource today. Please do head over there if you would like to learn more about our speakers, connect with and carry on that conversation. So let's kick off. Shani, I'm going to start with yourself, if I may. And I think it's worthwhile dwelling on booking behaviours and travel patterns, looking at the trends at the top end of this conversation. So what's the biggest shift that you've seen in booking patterns over the last year or so?
Yeah, I mean, similarly to what you said earlier about the direct channels, we have seen a slight increase in our direct channels across the portfolio this year, mainly driven by our loyalty programs. I think bookers are getting a lot more savvy these days. There is a lot more shopping around than there has been historically. But I think currently it's not just about price perception, but it's that added value that comes with the bookings as well. So where we've seen real success is having curated package options for our guests rather than the usual BBs or DBBs. And we've seen really strong uptake in those package segments, which has been a real success. I know at the moment hospitality is struggling with a lot of the cost lines in recent budget announcements. So I think looking at that commissions line has been a real focus across the UK, which is why hotels are switching to that value added perception. And that's where we are seeing those direct bookings really shine through. Again, as you mentioned, loyalty is a big one, and now moving to that digital loyalty program with the app, you can see how many stays, what points, etc. We know that a lot of the big brands do that very well, and independent properties have started to adopt that loyalty program offering as well, which is again for us have seen real success. I think when we're looking at that booker savviness as well, we have seen an increase in cancellations on the negative side of that. So people are looking 2 days before where hotels may drop the rates to fill, we are seeing bookers cancel with us and go to lower rated bookings in the market. So we are, I think one way that we are trying to combat that is with a more a deeper discount on our shoulder nights on the ADP offerings as well, to encourage guests to lock in those stays further out and reduce the cancellation percentage that we're seeing in the month and short lead. So I think those are the two main trends that we are seeing, and coupled with length of stay and lead time. With length of stay, we are still seeing that really short mini break type of booking rather than the 1 week stays that we've seen probably just after the pandemic. But in terms of lead times as well, we are seeing bookers that want the more meaningful stays, so it may be less frequent, but longer lead and longer stay and bigger spend. So I think a lot of different markets, a lot of different properties are seeing different trends, but they would be the ones that I'd pick out as the main three that we would be seeing at the moment.
And you mentioned that there's you're seeing quite a success with the packages, particularly on the value add. Can you give any sort of examples as to what's proven popular?
Yeah, I can give a specific example for the reserve at Chester Zoo. We have options available which are bed and breakfast only options. We have an entry level which is bed and breakfast, zoo access and dinner. And then a second tier which has more curated tours. We are actually seeing that second level package option being the most successful, despite it being the second highest price as well. So it does really highlight that guests are looking for that more curated experiential offering, not just the lower rated bookings.
Thanks, Janie. Derry, coming to you next, if I may. Almost similar question around any shifts that you're seeing in booking behaviours and whether, and to angle this back to the OTAs, how are travellers still relying on OTA bookings? If not, or if they are, and how are these trends influencing your marketing and sales strategy?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I talk about our business, and I have done quite a few times, I always say we're a social media organization that owns a glamping site. I very much look at it that way, absolutely. The issue that OTAs are having is, as more and more have been centralized, Airbnb, Booking.com, and other smaller independents have kind of got hoovered up into those models. The good thing on one side is that there's lots of options on Airbnb, there's lots of options on Booking.com, these sorts of platforms. But with lots of options, end up inevitably breeding kind of indecision because there's so much to look at, people don't know what to choose. And everybody's attention span, we can absolutely agree, is getting smaller and smaller. I do it on a daily basis. This is why I genuinely do not book holidays anymore. Because if I start looking, I end up down a rabbit hole and get so overwhelmed with it, I go, do you know what? Stuff it, I'm not going to do it. And my partner Chelsea is the absolute opposite because she has grown up in the era of everything in social media. She will find something niche on social media that she really wants to do, and we are going there to do that because she's seen it on social media, as opposed to planning, right, we want to go on holiday, let's try and find somewhere. So when it comes to the shift to social media, these micro niches are massively, massively important now because you can, and we see it on a daily basis. Literally, as I'm sat here, I can see people traveling in and out of our website and where they're coming from. And everybody is inevitably coming from Instagram, TikTok, sometimes Facebook, it's slightly different. But when they're looking at content specifically, they're trying to find something that's unique and they're not going to find that, or they don't believe they'll find that on website searches platforms. Because the answer is you genuinely don't know what you're searching for until you see it. So the great thing with social media is, as small independent businesses, we can really showcase what it is we have to offer in a really personal way. OTAs have stripped out that personality in a site and kind of made everybody look very similar, which has ended up with this quite vanilla outlook on stuff. One will look like the next, will look like the next. Where actually on social media, you can shine massively. You can portray your business like I do. People are as interested in the units that we have as they are interested in what I'm doing with my day-to-day life, with my family, with the kids. the reason I do the business, what we spend money on, all these sorts of things are really important when people are making decisions, and none of that can come across on an OTA platform. So social media has had a huge impact. And when we look at, what makes somebody or what gives somebody confidence in buying, it's usually recommendations. It always was previous to OTAs. I'd go on holiday, I'd tell my friends I had a great time. They'd then book, go to the same travel agent or whatever it might be. The same thing's happening now, but with a social media element, which is I will go to an event, a hotel, a holiday, whatever, and I share my own experience to my audience, which is my friends, my family, whatever, on my social media platform. That is an absolute key to booking. When we look at any booking platform now, you know, when it comes to reviews, basically everybody has good reviews. Everybody does. And it's now in this culture of either 5-star or 1-star. It's very rare you see a 2, 3, or 4 anymore. So you can't take that kind of position to book from a rating online anymore. I genuinely think people don't look at that as a specific key driver when booking. But if I see something where my friend Dave has been and stayed at the reservation, let's say at Chester Zoo, I would much prefer to take Dave's recommendation over the actual supplier of that thing. Because again, when it comes to social media, we can all smell an advert a million miles away. And that user-generated content is massively important. It's what 100% has driven our business. We can make our business look absolutely amazing. I can sit there and spend hours curating every video, every aspect of that content to make it perfect. But actually, that little shaky video that Debbie did with her husband when she came and stayed and had a great time has got way more impact than anything I will ever put out.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I was going to actually add to that. Derry does a great job in talking about if you make your guests your advertisers, it's a lot less effort for you, right?
Mm.
And Expedia just released that report, and Eloise, you talked on it. But since the height of the pandemic in 2022, social media was only 35% of the decision-making influence on guest booking. Now it's 61%, and it's 71% for those who are under 40, say that they look at social media before they're booking. And I would also just tie, that's also why it's important to have, we've seen this in the UK and particularly in the US and now trending over to the UK, having on your Google business profile, having that, it's called your free booking link or your Google hotel link. It's important to tie that into social media, that you have that enacted. So when people do find an activity or find you on social media, if they do happen to, once they find you on social media, sometimes a lot of times they'll book direct, but sometimes they'll come back later and say, what was the name of that property? Well, it was Derry, or it was this. And so they'll Google it, and then that Google will, if you have that free booking link, it will actually bring up the opportunity to book direct and with less commission.
Mm.
thanks for that, Nathan and Derry. Gary, we've kind of touched on or trends and behaviors, particularly in that early stage of discovery mode. What trends are you observing in terms of how tourists and other travelers are researching and choosing where they stay?
Yeah, it's very interesting, the start to me over the 11 years I've been in this particular industry, how it has changed. Most of the answers I'm probably going to say the same thing that what Derry and Nathan has said. Certainly, it's the social media aspect. The stats again was gone from 35% 3 years ago to 61. That's a massive shift. And we've got AI coming down the road in a minute that is only going to help that. But you're right, the friends and family even, although are still very important. I agree with Derry, I speak to my mates, and if they've had a good time, we haven't. But we are more and more seeing these little snippets of videos, these influencers, etc. In the Lake District, we've had a big surge in affinity pools. And that was just 1 or 2 influencers going up there, swimming in the water, and everybody saying, I want some of that, and away they've gone. One of the statements I use with a lot of our businesses now is it's not enough to advertise yourself. You need to understand where the people are looking.
Yeah.
If you're not there, then it doesn't matter how good your website is, how good your offer is, it isn't going to happen. So that, and with the other thing that I've noticed is that although we've moved into social media, we've just moved into automation, everything's at a click of a button. We're tending to find, certainly in the micro and small business area, that people like service. People like to speak to people. A lot of the times the bookings will come to you direct because they just want that extra little bit of comfort. They speak to the person. We've moved down that area where we press the button, it's 3 clicks on the website. If you haven't, people move off, go somewhere else. But in actual fact, that with pre-service and after service are the way to do it. We do a lot of speaking to our clients after they've done the booking, where a lot of people don't bother now because it's done. Actually, people like that sort of thing. The other trends that we're actually seeing about sort of booking windows, etc. Normally we'd get a lot of advanced bookings. Those booking windows have gone shorter and shorter, down to almost like a month now, when it used to be 3, 4, and 6. My personal business, I would be booked by now for 80% of the following year. It isn't that good anymore. So people are waiting a little bit longer. So I would say that the trends are social media, absolutely. That's it. Recommendations from what they are going to see. And then from the owner operator, probably seeing that those bookings aren't coming in quite as quickly as they used to do. But we can change that. And I might mention a little bit more when we go into the next question.
Thanks, Gary.
Can I just, sorry, can I just come in on that? Because Gary, you are absolutely correct. On the service side of stuff, it's funny. So in the kind of build up to coming doing this yesterday, I sat there last night and thought, do you know what? I'm going to phone, because I'm not with third-party OTAs. So I thought I'm going to speak to booking.com. Found the phone number. I sat on hold for 43 minutes last night just to see how long it would take somebody to answer. And when I got somebody, it was a call center. It turned out the call center was in Spain, actually. I was on call with them, asked them a question, and I got cut off. And I was so infuriated, even though I was doing it as a test. It, again, genuinely, it would have stopped me booking. Now, at the start of this year, I did a whole new manifesto about what the next 5 years of glamping specifically look like. And what Gary just said is exactly what it is. It's service. It's that level that changes everything. And this is where we shifted earlier this year into a service-led model rather than just an accommodation-led model. And when we was talking earlier about stats and things, we changed it in March this year. We've now got guest services on site. We have reception. We have the new tiki bar. So we have a F&B offering. We also do room service. Since that started, I'm just on my ResNexus because I use that and I love it for data. Our guest return rate has increased by 71.2% since we put that in. It's night and day the difference as we move forward into AI and everything gets automated. Because again, big OTA platforms have to automate. There is no way to answer that volume of calls. But as an individual business, we can. And now looking at it, that's what people want. They want somebody at the end of the phone to just talk over different issues, things that they want to look at. And then when it comes to booking again, well, if you did it with them and we can actually answer the phone and have a service-led business, they're far more likely to book with you. Absolutely, hands down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna build on this, and I'm gonna ping it across to Nathan because we've had a question come in, all about service and phone calls. So just to frame this question from the audience, thank you, Senna. A lot of boutique hotels tell us that even when guests discover them through OTAs, the final decision to book often comes through a phone call, yet many of those calls go unanswered due to staffing gaps. How important do you think 24/7 AI-powered call handling is for reclaiming direct bookings and reducing OTA dependency? Nathan, I can see that you've replied to that question, so would you mind sharing your answer with the webinar audience?
Yeah, I would just say I think that's one of the most exciting technologies that's coming to to all operators, particularly the mid-sized, the smaller operators, is the ability to have an AI agent that answers the phone and can get your rates and availability. We have a partner that we've been testing out that does that, and just in since July, the test property for that, they got about $8,000 in additional booking volume from being able to answer the phone after hours and using an AI voice agent. Now, it's been around for a longer time is AI chatbots, and those are very useful too. And so both of those, you just want to make sure you have that coverage because just like Derry just mentioned, it really is when I have that answer or when I have that question, can you answer it? Because large hotel chains usually can. They staff it 24/7. And that's where that technology really does fit that gap at a lower cost point than hiring the staff that's required for that. So it's definitely something that I think is the most exciting use of AI technology. And you know, I feel like we're kind of in this bubble that everybody's talking AI. You see all the commercials and it's people building buildings. You're like, this is a commercial about nothing. But really what's coming is we're starting to figure out the most useful cases for AI in hospitality and other industries, and that's what you'll see the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Nathan, sticking with you, if I may, because I think one of the biggest challenges that hoteliers face is how much control the OTAs have over the guest and that relationship, communication, possibly even loyalty. Um, how how is that data gap evolving? What are you seeing, and how do you see technology perhaps stepping in to help rebuild that gap and add in that first party data?
Yeah. So one of the things that the OTAs have done very well is they've established a safe brand that guests trust, right? And one of the things that they're doing in that data gap is the OTAs, especially Expedia, and I'm know Airbnb and Booking.com have this in the works as well, have developed AI filters and agents. And what that means for your guest data is that now when most people shop in the app or on their phone, now what it does is the AI knows their preferences based on their filters and their past shopping behavior. So, and their loyalty. So, for example, AI filters might know I like certain amenities like a gym, spa, or jacuzzi, right? A hot tub if I'm staying at a glamping spot. So, if I select that filter enough, it knows to lead with those options in search results. Well, that means that if your property doesn't have those options, then you're not being seen. But this also includes package offers and as well, and the timing to display them. So the OTAs are trying to encourage guests or trying to get properties to do more packages and use those in their AI filters as well. In addition, to keep guests from shopping direct, they're building AI agents. This is very popular that make suggestions and travel plans with you. Expedia reported around 1.3 to 2 times conversion rates with these tools. So they're really trying to capture that. With social media, Derry's with Dragon Dens is a great example of man. He's rocking it on social media. He's got probably more than enough bookings through that channel, and that he doesn't need those OTAs. Well, OTAs are getting wise to that too, and are partnering with like Netflix and Disney Plus, and basically they're particularly for larger chains, they're saying, hey, if you want to be featured on the Traders or Real House of Dubai or Yellowstone, we can get your social media advertising on that, or we can even talk to the producers of the show and get like a product placement or mention. So they're really exploring that and with other social media influencers. So where do I see that with technology being the biggest difference to rebuild that first party data? Well, like what we talked about before, the nice thing about social media is it does let the small to mid-size to independent boutique hotels really compete in that space. I've seen properties that do activities that just generate lots of buzz. Like for example, we have glamping. I know a glamping site that they have Bigfoot that comes and says hi to the campers at a certain part of time because that's the legend, and you see him, and when they do their social media, it pans to him, and it gets great results. So you have that. You also have, though, I think you'll see that AI tools that have been built by the OTAs really will start to trickle down to smaller property management software systems as well. So you'll start to reap the benefit of, hey, our system has all this past guest data. It knows it can analyze your past. I know what ResNexus is working towards. Hey, it can recognize your past guest data. It knows when they booked, the season that they booked, the time window that they booked, and it knows what add-ons or packages that they like. And so it's going to craft a custom email marketing message for them and send that to them at the appropriate time. So I think that the technology will swing back and trickle down so that you'll see more of those features in there. You already see, we already mentioned the AI phone answering bots or the chat bots. That's one. But I think also one thing that you'll see is the website technology where, the AI overview that happens, your website technology will be such that if you follow good SEO practices and are a good guide to you're the local guide. I call it hyper localization, right? You know what's there to eat, you know what's there to do. If you put that on your website, I think the AI overviews will, if you do it well, just like TripAdvisor, you'll start to pull up as well on those AI overviews or Chat GPT searches.
I think this builds on something that I think it was Gary who mentioned it earlier, that you can do as much promotion around visibility and promoting oneself, but this new iteration of SEO is going to be so much more dependent on what others are also talking about and publishing about you and your business. I think the next iteration is called generative engine optimization. So that is scanning not just your own business and website and content and your own social channels, but other online sources around what they are talking about you as a business, as a brand. And I think Derry mentioned earlier about feedback and reviews and the role that reviews play. I held another webinar last week where actually the reply time to reviews is now cropping up as a key metric that revenue managers and marketing managers are now being aware of, but that reply time is also being factored into how you rank when AI does its scanning of the internet. So changes are happening quick and fast, and it's super, super important to stay abreast where possible. Shani, that actually pivots me quite nicely into my next conversation, because we've talked about social media, we've talked about website and online content. How are you evaluating which visibility initiative is going to genuinely qualify leads and traffic? What's your strategy here?
I mean, we use different metrics for the different platforms. I think as a revenue person, we'd look at the cost of something and say straight away, what is the ROAS, what is the return on investment on those? Whereas looking at social media, it probably needs to be thought of more as Derry, Gary, and Nathan were saying earlier, of brand promotion. It's more about education rather than measuring conversion on that platform. I mean, I might see something on social media today, show my friend who shows her parent who then books, and there's no real way to quantify that. So looking at the engagement on those channels, who's commenting, who's liking, how many new followers. But as you're also saying with the response to reviews, it's a response to the questions that pop up on those platforms as well. If there are any questions on social media that gets answered, I think just asking the question alone shows that your intent is higher than just browsing through that. So I think the importance of making sure that those are replied to and in a timely manner will hugely help the conversion rates for those as well. I mean, in terms of meta search, looking at cost per clicks and click-through rates is something that we measure constantly. But again, making sure that that does convert. We could have low cost per clicks with really high impressions that doesn't drive any conversions. So it's looking at each funnel of that, seeing where the drop off is, and making sure that the right content is there to ensure the conversion rates are higher. And I think building that trust is really important, which would lead on to the rate strategy within that. I mean, we could have the best campaign, the strongest SEO. Our marketing team could be doing an incredible job, but if our rates were showing lower on OTAs than they were direct, then you're throwing the money away and paying commission on top of that. So making sure that, it is a bit of the Wild West at the moment in terms of distribution. And I think AI will make that even more challenging, where you have a wholesaler rate that's packaged up. We are seeing rate leakage with those that leads to rate disparity. When AI is kicking in, it's scraping all of those rates. If there's something there that's not competitive, it will show up. So yeah, I mean, we do use several tools to look at that, because we will never see, America's point of sale for 3-night length of stay rates, whereas we use distribution intelligent tools to our advantage to try and catch that before it is leaked out to the end guest as well.
So am I right? So you were using AI tools to identify the parity challenges and trying to correct it before it, I suppose, takes it and goes to the masses.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with the tools that we are using is it's with the masses at that point, and that's how it picks up on it. So trying to preempt that is probably the more challenging side. And I think AI, it will be constant. We're manually having to log in and look at those shops to correct them, where AI will just be scraping those rates and pushing them out, which is giving us the challenge at the moment.
Thanks, Shani. I'm going to jump over to Gary for a moment here, because we've talked across all the various channels: Meta, content, social media, website, but let's not forget that in most cases, OTAs are a critical part of that guest journey, especially when it does come to international travelers who may not know the local market as we as hoteliers, owners, operators might. And Gary, I want to get this question in now, because I do think it is so important. How can operators work with that reality while still trying to protect that all-important direct channel?
Yeah, it's the holy grail, isn't it? Absolutely. Couple of things I would say there, and I've been writing things down as people have been talking, is certainly you're not going to beat the OTAs. They are too big, they've got too much money. It isn't going to happen. For those people that have been always saying, I'm going to do it myself because I can do it better, etc. Actually, you're not going to be able to do that, The analogy is you can use a brush to clean your carpet, but a vacuum cleaner does it better. It costs a lot more money. So we use the best tools at the best times, and that's use them to our advantage. But certainly with a tourism association by ourselves, we can be collectively to everybody else that critical friend, that friend that you need. That was Derry was saying about before. He speaks to his friends. If his friends like it, then I'll probably like it, etc. So as a tourism association, that's exactly what we aim to do. So people will come to us with the ideas. So we don't want to become a booking agent. That won't work. We don't want to book business for our guests, for our hoteliers. Why? Because they do it better, because they know their business. Derry understands his bits and pieces. My restaurant owners understand their food and what goes best. The activity people can do that. So we need to collectively sort of bring that all together, and it's back to them basics, about selling. It's about customer services. We're providing the thing. As I said earlier on, be at the right place. When Derry goes to look for something for his holiday, I need to be there, and I'd be able to explain. That person gets that feel. So we use AI, we use the tools to make things do quickly, etc., etc. But we bring in that personality, that little bit of extra that will help us. Because it's so big, if you go to Keswick, and we're no different to any other town, if you want a guest house in Keswick, you've got about 500 to pick from. You know, how do you do that? Well, by coming to a tourism association, they've got a better feel of the area for you. So again, it's that little cutting it down from the influencer will give me the big picture. There's the lovely infinity pool, etc. But where am I actually going to stay? And what will be the best type of accommodation for me? And I like Italian, etc., etc. So that's how I think that will answer. And the other thing on the international markets, because you did say that, you know, the OTAs tend to grab, I put my teeth back in, tend to grab the international market first. But again, I am seeing, this is only a personal thing, around this particular area, we have about 20 to 25% international people coming over. My trend, sorry, it's 5%. My trend is 25%. The only difference being is I speak to people. Sorry, Nathan, you want to jump in?
No, I think you're right. One thing that I don't think, I think that Gary and Keswick Association has done well too, is although they don't want to be like another OTA or booking engine for their association, one thing that they've done that helps them, for example, if you Google places to stay in Keswick, organically their association comes up, and that's because they've put all their properties and links to their websites all in one directory. So that's one way that you can, and that's what Shani, the same thing, if as she has multiple hotel chains, she can do that with all of her properties. And so you can have a little bit more presence. But if you're in a heavily tourist area, having an association that pulls them all on one directory, that if it can show the rates and availability, great. If it can't, at least it has a link to the booking website of each property. That has that weight to Google. And because Gary's association's done such a good job on being that travel guide on what to do in the area, that SEO naturally comes up. So that's another thing to consider, another way that you can reclaim your guest journey as a community.
And I think that's finally that's being seen that it's working, because we're getting larger hotel chains wanting to become a member of our association. And the first question is, why would you want to do that? You've got better SEO than me, yada yada yada, because you're bigger. No, actually, it's that hub, that center that's saying, actually, again, going back to my statement, you need to be where people are looking, so people come to look there. So hopefully it's working.
Gary, what would be your advice to any hotelier that's maybe listening to this webinar now to better collaborate with their a tourism body to help amplify that direct booking message? Like, what would be your advice?
To absolutely do that, it's really quite simple. And again, if we go back to basic selling skills, if we go back to any sort of sales 101, yeah, you do not worry about your competition. Competition is good. Work with them. That brings you up. It raises the quality up. It raises up the number of people who can do it. It raises up the costs. Okay. So you could spend or charge a little bit more, but you then get a better feeling for the, or a better experience, should I say, for the client. So it's all a win-win. So I would say to everybody, and that's from both sides. I have smaller, the micro businesses who go, this is my bit of business and I don't want to tell anybody else about it because in fear I might lose it. And in actual fact, it doesn't. So we work together, we cover the market, we pick up all the extra bits and pieces. So I'd say to any, larger organization, yes, you speak to everybody. You must do.
Thanks, Gary. We've had a question come in from the audience, and thanks team for getting completely stuck in with these questions. It certainly makes my job as host a lot easier. But I'm going to tie this into a question that I have for Derry. So the question is, I have found that OTAs are no longer allowing us to set an increased price to compensate for their commissions. How can I have better rates for my direct bookings? And I think this links into a question that I had already set aside for Derry around beyond the price, where are the value adds that convert OTA users into a direct booker? If you can kind of summarize your thoughts, Derry, and combine those two questions into one, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, Nathan has answered the question, and then I was doing the same at the same time. And yeah, the issue is across all OTAs now, and you'll see it again, Booking.com as an example, because I was on there last night. They give you a price guarantee. So they want the same price across all platforms because they know they'll lose out to direct bookings if it's cheaper there, or if customers lose loyalty with their platforms because they're being overcharged. Because that's ultimately what a customer's going to see. If it's 300 quid on Airbnb and 200 quid to go direct, somebody's making 100 quid. Who is it? It's Airbnb, and they don't like that. No OTA does. So when you're trying to compete on price, it's very difficult now because the systems are in place to stop that. And as we both answered in that question there, things like value add, so offering guests extras, other reasons to book directly, are way better than it is from a financial incentive because you're always on the path down then. If you it's a race to the bottom if you're competing on price and it constantly goes down. Now, it doesn't have to be physical things. We do a lot around upselling, extras, stuff that we offer, a lot of packages around food and drinks and around experience-driven stuff. Our new site in Devon, for example, there's a whole farm safari that you can do there and interact with animals and all that sort of stuff. Very similar to the reserve at Chester Zoo, for example. That's their value add. But it doesn't have to be a physical thing. It genuinely, the thing that converts people from an OTA to a direct booker and also keeps them with you going forward is just your attention to them. So we find customers now come away for lots of different reasons. They're so wide and varied. It's not just I fancy going away. It can be that, and it can equally be a birthday or an anniversary or a wedding. But then we do have guests who are turning up because a family member's been diagnosed with cancer and they want to spend some time reconnecting with a family. All these sorts of things are way, way more important than just physical price. So if you pay attention to what your guests are looking for and what they want to do whilst they're there, and just trying to give them advice or help them out with the booking, that absolutely breeds loyalty in your guest and gives them 100% reason why to book with you instead of sending 17 messages. I had a similar conversation yesterday around group bookings because as the market's moved on, we're getting lots more group bookings now. The traditional group booking of maybe a hen do, a stag do, those sorts of things have kind of died down. But what we're finding now is more like multi-generational families. So it's nan and granddad, auntie, uncle, mum and dad, and Dave and Lynn who live next door who are all going away. Now, when you get a large group booking like that, it's very hard to do through an OTA platform because there's lots of individual questions. Auntie Lynn wants a comfy single bed, Uncle Dave needs a toilet close by, and it ends up as a massive thread of conversation and ultimately they'll get bored and moved on. Because by the time you've answered the 15th question, people don't want. Where actually a quick phone call to a guest to see if there's anything you can do to help solves it instantly. And it makes that guest feel far more comfortable that you not only understand their needs, but can also provide for their needs. And if somebody feels confident in your brand, they will move over to you very, very quickly and they will stay with you for a long period of time then.
Yeah, yeah, and I was just gonna add, I've seen people on an OTA strategy, particularly for bed and breakfasts in the US. One thing that they'll do is they'll put to the OTA their price, and even if it's the same as the direct book, it doesn't include a breakfast,
Yeah.
which most bed and breakfasts do. So again, there's that value add. I've seen a lot of ways to increase your revenue is with add-ons and retail items. That's one reason why I recommend that your online direct booking engine has like a special page for those, and you set those up. I know probably Shani does that too. And then the last thing is on the OTA parity. What the OTAs officially say, this is what they do, but what they officially say is they want parity across platform. So if you list with Booking.com and Airbnb, and it needs to be the same price that you put out to them. They say that they don't care as much about your direct booking rate being less, but basically they do have bots that cross-check and they talk with each other in a friendly way to say, hey, my listing on Expedia and Booking.com are the same price. But if you do not have that parity, then they will take you off. They'll lower your visibility if you're trying to encourage them to Booking.com or Expedia or Airbnb because you like their commission rates better.
I've absolutely seen this as part of GITA, because I also am the president of the Glamping Trade Association of the UK. We have seen members literally overnight lose 100% visibility on OTA platforms for doing that exact thing. Because, like you just said, Nathan, it's not they don't forwardly say it, but in the background they can absolutely do it. And they've gone from, hundreds of OTA inquiries to zero overnight because they've changed what pricing structure they do. And again, inevitably, it is this fight to the bottom as you go forward. But working with, again, on the back end system, you've got to the issue with, in general, most websites for small businesses and things like that in the UK is that they're not as good. The OTA platforms make it very, very easy to book with them and to make it, you need that journey to be as simple as possible. And it's the same when you come into retail items, to upsells, to added benefits. All of that's got to be as seamless on your website as it is on Airbnb or Booking.com. Now, don't forget, they've got tens of millions of pounds on a budget to do it, so it will be perfect. So it's something to not scrimp and scrape on. I've worked really hard with Clay at ResNexus to make our retail items work perfectly, and our guests love it. And it's so simple to do. They can, with an extra couple of clicks, they can add it on. And actually, when they're making a booking that's, £500, £600, £700, £800, adding on a few extra retail items is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it actually boosts your revenue up massively as an owner as well. So it's really important to make sure whatever system you use, it's working as good as the OTAs are, because that's where they're really capitalizing. A couple of clicks, you're done, you're through your page, you're finished. That's what we all want when we're converting from social media. Don't forget, on social media, everything's very, very, very quick. Couple of clicks, left, right, up, down, that's it. If it's more than 2 clicks, even 3 clicks to get through to something, you've lost them in the back watching a funny video of a donkey. So it's you've got to make sure that your back end system is working as good as the OTAs are.
I think that's a very fair point. And the other thing I think, again, perhaps the smaller businesses forget a little bit is to understand the real cost. So we hate OTAs because they take 20% commission, and that's right. But actually, they do provide customers. The trick for the business is to change that customer into a client, because we all know it takes 5 times more to get a client than to keep one. So in the tourism industry there, we want repeat bookings, people to come back. So in almost, I'm saying, well, let the OTs do that work for us. Let's spend that money. Our important bit is, once we've got that client, is to keep that client. Notwithstanding what Derry just said about the fact is, when it comes to booking, and this is why I specifically like ResNexus, is the fact of the ease of booking. Once we get to that point, it works very well. It's great. We can send all the bits and pieces out to people backwards and forwards, all that information. It's very, very slick. That's great, but we've still got to get the client first.
I'm very conscious of time, but I would really like to give the final word to Nathan, because I think it builds on what Gary just said. And it's, Nathan, your parting words around the most effective touch points for engaging those guests and nudging them towards loyalty. What would you say as your advice?
So, like we've already discussed, the normal shopping behavior is now social media, then friends, then the OTAs. All are great ways to get new guests. So it goes without saying that to capture guests, you should have a good place for them to go. Just like Derry said, a good-looking website and a good direct online booking engine. And your website should act as that guide to help your guests plan the whole experience, such as things to do and places to eat. It's also really important to have messaging capabilities, such as We've talked about WhatsApp or texting or AI chatbots or AI answer machines that can answer those questions. And then one thing that's crucial that kind of Gary talked about is once they've arrived, OTAs are really good at getting you new guests. They really suck at getting you that same guest again because that's not what they're being used for. They're being used for discovery, just like social media is being used for discovery. So your property system, you should collect that guest information when they come, and you should collect their birthday and anniversary information. And so one of the things that to really engage them is to get more information about them and to send automatic marketing messages on those dates. ResNexus lets you do that on the direct booking engine and when they arrive. And we find that about 70% of the time, people will provide that information because they want to stay with you again if you provide a great guest experience. I also recommend having kind of a cart abandonment tool is another great thing to engage guests. That's where if they are shopping direct and they get interrupted, or they just say, I want to go search for something else, well, then it will send an automatic email messaging to kind of remind them to finish that booking or why you're so good. And I typically say set one up that's like, hey, you forgot with no special, and then maybe a day or two later set another one up, hey, don't forget, and we'll give you a special if you book direct now. I think those are some great ways to do that. One thing that I'll end off. One thing that I have seen to engage that past guests that I've seen our clients do is if you have the ability to determine your big spenders, the guests who have spent a lot of money with you, with ResNexus, we call it the big spender report. One thing that I've seen that's been popular is to send promotional emails thanking them and offering them a gift card if they'll either refer or spend a certain amount at your property. And so this is a way for a smaller to mid-sized property to do sort of a loyalty program without necessarily having that loyalty program that maybe some other larger boutique hotels can do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, the four of you. I wish we could carry on talking because we've still got questions coming through, but sadly we don't have the time. But I'm gonna end by saying that we're gonna leave this webinar open just for an extra few minutes to allow our audience members to follow up on any of the links that we have popped into the chat today, including all the LinkedIn profiles of our speakers, so that you can carry on asking those important questions and carry on that conversation after today's webinar has closed. So I've just got some closing slides that I would like to run through before I say a final goodbye. Just to flag the next webinar in this series, I'll be back in a week today, this time talking about renovations and timing hotel refurbishments. The link to register for that webinar has been popped into the chat, and we would absolutely love to see you there. And if you're interested in working with us either across our digital events such as these webinars or perhaps our in-person events too, please do get in touch with my colleague Katie. Her details are up on your screen and also in the chat. And all that's left for me to do now is to say thank you to Shani, Derry, Gary and Nathan for their time, contributions and insights today. And a big, big thank you to ResNexus for their fantastic partnership pulling together this webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. And I'll see you on the 1st of December, folks. Bye now.
At IHM, we believe in the power of connection. We exist to inspire, to inform, and to unite decision makers who are shaping the future of hospitality and real estate. Our why is simple. We believe this industry thrives when people and ideas come together. And we're here to make that happen. So how do we do it? We publish 4 leading multimedia brands, each a trusted voice in its sector. We blend intelligent content, curated events, and a strong community into everything we do. Making it easy, accessible, and genuinely useful. From online engagement to face-to-face connection. At IHM, we believe in the power of connection. We exist